Dr. Tunja and the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board on two different matters concluded and finalized the issue of age grade. The issue of age grade, the age at which a child can actually enter into the university. And at the same time also, we looked at the issue of the grades for the benchmark for students that will be going to the university, especially many that will be going to the university, 150 marks, while going to the College of Education is 100, and I think Polytechnic is 140. These are decisions that was reached by the Federal Ministry of Education and Joint Admission and Matriculation Board recently. If you will remember, the issue of age was one major issue that the former Minister of Education actually raised, and it brought a lot of controversies. And from that, some students in this last JAMB examination, they wrote JAMB, some of them could not write it because of age, and at some point, some that were given the opportunity to write it, they actually said that on the condition that they're going to score a particular number of marks, and if you are not, that is, they call them the gifted students, so that if they are able to reach a particular mark, automatically they are going to be qualified. And those are the issues. And today we're going to be looking at why the government, why the minister, that person of Tunja Lausa, actually concluded and agreed together with the ministry on the age of 16. How is age of 16? How reliable is the age of 16? A student that is going to the university at the age of 16, we say is matured enough. We say conveniently he understood what needs to be done, and he is definitely going to face the rigors and the troubles of the country and do it well. These are some of the things that we'll be looking at together this morning. It's going to be a discussion program whereby I will be expecting some of our listeners to come up and speak their mind, share your mind with me on the age 16 and 150, which is the cutoff mark for JAMB to enter into any university. One major and exciting thing that happened at the decision table was the fact that it was like a kind of a vote at the WAEC of the Ministry of Education, where the Minister of Education, Tunja Lausa, and the head of JAMB was there together with all other stakeholders, where they had to raise their hands up on agreeing on a particular the age, and at the same time on the mark. So those is going to be our focus this morning, and definitely is going to be the issue that we'll be both going to be discussing this morning. Now, let's look at certain reasons why the minister and the Ministry of Education actually agreed on the age 16 that we are going to be looking at today, which is going to be like a background of why it's important. And the official set 16 years age as minimum age for university admission. Now, balancing cognitive development, and one of the reasons is because of the balance to balance cognitive development and academic readiness of such a child. According to the minister, Dr. Tunji Alhassan emphasized that the age limit reflects a balance between cognitive maturity and the academic preparedness, meaning a 16-year-old are generally seen as ready both intellectually and emotionally for tertiary studies. Now, do you agree with this? That is actually the age whereby you felt they are already coming up, because that's going to be 2 years before they become what we call an adult. Adult is 18, and at 16, a child should be emotionally ready and cognitively matured, that will be able to manage the rigor of every thing that they face in the university. And what again? The reversal of before now it was 18. That was when Tai Mamman, the former minister, actually put it at 18, but the new one now said is at 17. Now, let's look at this. The government has made it clear that now that at 16 is non-negotiable. Institutions must confirm age through the central admission processing system, and any attempt to circumvent this, that is giving an underage, or it's going to be called fraud, and it would definitely lead to sanction. So there is no reason for anybody to start fighting on it. As long as your child is not 16 years old, there is no way of going to the university. Now, there are provisions for exceptionally gifted students. That is another thing that we need to understand here, that about that age 16, exceptionally gifted student, that is those who complete accelerated programs even if they are younger than 16, but this case here require rigorous documentation. Now, another thing you need to understand is that by lowering the threshold from 18 to 16, the policy makes tertiary education accessible, sooner reducing delays and potentially lowering out of school rates. It also aims to align entry ages with global best practices. We're in a country whereby when you go to a particular company, a particular company, especially the banking system, they ask you about the age of, they tell you those going to be applying a 2-1 and should not be more than 20, should not be more than 19, and should be by December, it should be the age of 21. And the question is, in our education system, with all the, thank God that the issue of actual access track is actually reducing on a daily basis, and not all parents will be able to send their children, their wards to private university. The question is, how realistic is it for them to possibly finish their education before the age of 20? How reliable? But it's believe if you're able to start at 16, by 20 you should be able to finish university education, and the market will definitely be of favor to you. So no going back around the age of 16, and is already a standalone, and it's lowering the threshold, and lowering it automatically reduce. According to the Minister of Education, it reduces the delay in potential learning out of school rates. You reduce out of school rate because a child has finished at 14 or 15 and had to stay a year or two at home before going to the university may not likely be of benefit. Now, let's look at this. Now, let's look at some of these impact areas and details of it now. Now, in a prospective student or parent, applicants may be at least 16 by admission time and must have valid age documentation ready. Accelerated learners need to prove exceptional ability. That is one thing you must know. Then, must use CAPS for age verification. That is, you must also check that. Now, what is the summary? What must we need to know? A shift to a 16-year minimum age for university admission is a calculated decision designed to combine maturity, academic readiness, and greater accessibility. It balances fairness with flexibility, allowing gifted younger students to excel while ensuring standardization and integrity through strict CAPS enforcement. All these are very important. They should be ready. Now, if you want to be part of this, you want your contribution, if you agree that age 16 helps maturity, academic readiness, and accessibility to university education, you can call us on this number 081 30 13 20 97. If you want to be part of it, you can call us on this number 081 30 13 20 97. Tell us your view, your thoughts about the age of 16 that that the Minister of Education have actually said that is the best we can do. That is the best that can be of help to our children. As we are looking at the age that was pegged, 16, let us also look at in the last 10 years, how has university cutoff mark has been from JAMB in the last 10 years, and let's see how if the 150 that's actually been pegged now is reasonable enough for admission into the university. I'd like to do a little analysis and let's see how it has been over the last 10 years. Now, from 2014 to 2016, 2014 to 2016, the cutoff was consistently 180. Consistently in 180. In 2017, a dramatic drop to 120. And that was the lowest point in a decade. Now imagine, because that it means to us that when we're talking about the issue of JAMB scores is not actually static, and possibly we're going to look at why. Why do we always have it this way, where we're not having a specific what is actually the condition? What is actually the reason why we're always having this kind of a change in the cutoff mark for university for minimum the benchmark, for national benchmark? What is actually the reason? Now in 2017, like I said the other time, there was a dramatic drop to 120, and that was the lowest in the decade. Now a gradual increase followed. That is in 2018 we had 140, and then in 2019 to 2020 that was 160. Now it dropped again to 120 in 2021. Dropped again to the 120 in 2021. Then rebounded, moved up again in between 2022 and 2024. It moved to 140, and now in 2025 we are having it as 150. We have it now as 150. Now, the JAMB National Minimum UTME score is the OLS score the board approves nationally for admission consideration. Now, we need to understand that that JAMB actually said it's going to be 150 does not mean that somebody that is going for medicine or that is going for engineering course, we also think that JAMB has said it was 50, so conveniently they can just go to the university. No, that is just a national benchmark. That is, you do not go below, and that there are courses that you can definitely have it at the point. But individual institutions, especially university, often set their own usual high cutoffs based on their, according to the minister, and JAMB is actually based on the nature of the course they are doing, and also has to do with the number of slots given to a particular course. I forgot the name they used to call it now, whereby they were giving you this the number you can admit in a particular department, and especially like medicine, law, there's always a particular number you can. So if you're having that kind of number, for you to have that reasonable number, you see universities adjusting their cutoff mark to whatever they're going to use it to do. Now, the benchmark serves as a floor. Schools can't admit below it, but they can require more. For example, top federal university often sets departmental pre-UTME threshold to 200 plus. That is what a lot of them used to do. So what are some of the takeaways I want us to understand from this? Is the fact that the cutoff has fluctuated significantly from as low as 120 to as high as 180, reflecting varying concerns over quality, access, and candidate performance. Another thing that actually determines this is the performance of candidate in a particular year. If we're having the performance is high, definitely the benchmark used to go high, and when it is low, it will come down. And one of the challenge that we're going to be having this year is as a result of the way the JAMB exam was handled this year. Some people had to do a kind of mop-up exam. Some of the students did not even go for the mop-up. A lot of them believed that the result they got was not what they did. And some of them, because of technical issues, they were unable to have the correct mark. So if you want to be part of this, you can call 081 30 13 20 97. Let's know your thought. Let me know your thought. Let me know your view about the cutoff mark and the 16-year age that was pegged by the Minister of Education. You can call 081 30 13 20 97. So going forward, I said 120 to 180 range over the decades indicates that JAMB's balancing act between standard and inclusivity, and we just have to agree with that. We have to agree with that. That in trying to, because of performance, and you're trying to allow students to go into the university, should not take away the standard, should not take away what you think should be the right, the quality of what we are taking into our universities, knowing fully well that whatever comes into the universities after 4 years, we produce it and they go to the labor market, go back to the lecturing job to help younger ones build a life for themselves. So we cannot actually take away what we call the standard. And in 2025, the benchmark is 150 for universities, indicating a moderate, stricter stance compared to recent years. We cannot agree less. If you want to be part of this and you just want us to know your thoughts about this, you can call 081 30 13 20 97. We should not forget that when we're talking about the breakdown of JAMB, UTME cutoff benchmarks, we should not forget that We also have for not for universities alone, even for polytechnics and colleges of education in Nigeria. Now let's look at this. According to JAMB's official policy for the 2025 and the 2026 admission cycle, polytechnics minimum UTME score is of between 100 to 120, while the colleges of education minimum UTME score is 100. Now, institution, let's look at certain things now. Polytechnic, federal polytechnic, and the standard entry level set as is at 120, and some demand more for competitive courses. And when you have some competitive courses, they go so as far as 150 plus. And for example, let me take for example now in the federal polytechnic, for example, like Yabatech, it requires 150 for ND and 180 for UNN degree. If you're going for UNN degree there, you have to have a 180, and many federal institutions used to accept 120 as minimum wage. Now, state polytechnics typically cutoff scores start at 120, rising to 160 to 180 for engineering or other high demand courses. Now, for example, LASPOTECH in Lagos accepts 160 plus with 180 plus for engineering courses, and Polytechnic Ibadan takes 130 plus as general cutoff mark. Now, most of the private polytechnics, many accept 100 even as a general minimum level. Now, for the competitive programs at polytechnics, engineering, mass communication, and related courses often have higher departmental cutoff, like 140 to 180. For example, now Federal Polytechnic they accept 180 plus. The Polytechnic Ibadan engineering courses cutoff range from 185 to 212 plus. And colleges of education general UTME cutoff is usually 100, but competitive programs may require like a 120 plus. For example, the Federal College of Education Zaria, even it takes 120. At the Yemi College of Education, like take 120 to 150. Now, all this, one thing that we're still trying to bring out of this is they're mixing standard with the standard with accessibility. That is, not reducing the standard and at the same time still allowing students to conveniently gain admission into the universities. These are actually some of the things is important for us to have an idea this morning. Good morning, and where are you coming from? Eka Rosa. Kí lorúkọ yín àti ilẹ̀ tí ń pè? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Ẹgbẹ́ sà ṣé ilé-iṣẹ́ rédíò ló ní nọ́mbà ẹ̀ gangan ni àbí àwọn tó wá ṣe prógráàmù yẹn?
Ilé-iṣẹ́ rédíò gangan ló ní nọ́mbà yìí.
Ok, ẹ ṣé ẹjọ́ ẹ má bínú o. Ẹjọ́ sà mo ní suggestion kan bóyá lè bá yá ẹrù gàlè ó wù mí kán dúrọ̀pù nọ́mbà wọn lẹ́ẹ̀kan yẹn bọ̀.
Sorry, they've actually finished the program and they've gone, so I may not have answer to any of those questions that you actually want to ask now. Mo lè má lè dáhùn sí ìbéèrè yín lọ́wọ́ eléyìí tẹ́ ń béèrè torí pé àwọn tó ṣe tó bá di ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ bóyá ẹ lè tún pè nọ́mbà yìí ẹ lè sọ fún ọ. Thank you so much. Thank you for that call, and we're still expecting your call. If you want to be part of this program, you can call 081 30 13 20 97. 081 30 13 20 97. Let's know your thoughts about the education system in Nigeria. Now, I don't want just to continue to talk about the issue of how we come about the age issue that will help in the university without first of all trying to even look at the education system in Nigeria. What's actually the education system look like in Nigeria till now, and how it's actually been arranged to better the lot of every child in order for them to have access to quality education. Now, the education system in Nigeria is structured into several levels following the 6-3-3-4 system, which we know very well, which represent 6 years of primary education, 3 years of junior secondary education, 3 years of senior secondary education, and 4 years of tertiary education. Now, though some courses stays longer than that particular number of years. Now, early child care and development education, when we're talking about the age between the age of 0 to 5 years, which includes nursery and primary education, and it focuses on the fundamental skills like socialization, motor development, and basic literacy, mostly provided by private institutions. And now we have the primary education, which is 6 years, 6-3-3. That is what we're looking at, and it's always from the grades. Then most of the time it's between the age of 6 and 11, and grades to primary 1 to 6, and where you look at different subjects: mathematics, English, basic science, civic education, etc. And it ends with the National Common Entrance Examination for transition into federal university colleges, private secondary and primary schools, state secondary schools. And from there we'll go to what we call the junior secondary education, which is supposed to be for 3 years, and that is most of the time between the age of 12 and 14. Majorly between the age of 12 and 14, and at the end of that 3 years, that is when you see students they write the basic education certificate examination, BECE, and they're expected to do more of what we call vocational and technical training, and it begins at that level. That is moving to an advanced level, and it's always it's compulsory. It's very, very compulsory, and that is why in Ekiti State usually we have what we call the free education, and a lot of things are provided for students in public schools. Now, when we're now talking about the senior secondary education, we're supposed to be between let's pick this call. Hello, good morning. Oh, we lost the call. You can call back, and let me continue with my explanation. And senior secondary education, which is actually for 3 years, that is usually between the age of 15 and 17, and the grades between SS1 to SS3, and ends with West African Senior School Certificate Examination, either an SSE or NECO SSE, and that's what we do now. And that is where you see the student specialization, that is the science, arts, or commercial tracks, and you move there to the university, which is supposed to be between 4 to 6 years. If polytechnics, you have HND and ND, which is usually 2 years, and you have the NCE, which is usually 3 years. But the Money Polytechnic, technical colleges, innovation enterprises, all those ones are what we do, and the minimum age, which, just like what the Minister of Education did recently, is always at the age of 16. Now, you realize that when the minister is actually looking at this, you know that he's actually working based on the best practices according to the minister. Now, but the question is, what are some of the major challenges in Nigerian education? What are the major challenges? Why do parents have to pick their child from a small class and pull them to a higher class just because a kind of double promotion is basically just because of some of the challenges that we are facing? And one of the challenges that we have, especially in public schools and universities, is what called underfunding, and we have inconsistent policy implementation, examination malpractices, poor infrastructure, that is classrooms, labs, and hostels. All these things are what we usually have, and those are some of challenges that we have. And we also have what we call the brain drain, which is actually by reason of the frequent lecturers. Okay, like I was actually talking about some of the major challenges in the Nigerian education. And we said another challenge was brain drain. Brain drain, that is based on frequent lecturer strikes, especially ASU. All those things are some of the challenges. And the last which I want to talk about is what we call the regional inequality. Northern Nigeria faces low enrollment and literacy rates just because of the challenges of luxuries and a lot of things that are actually making the Northerners they're making their enrollment to be low. All these are some of the challenges. And now let's look at the recent reforms and developments that we're having, which brought me to the issue that we actually discussing this morning. That is the enforcement of 16-year minimum age for university entry and the digitalization of admissions, that is the issue that is via CAPS, integration of skills acquisition in secondary curricula. Now, that which is even more important, a lot of us, we used to read that when you go to China, you go to some of this country, from as small as they were, the children will be, they actually train them on what we call doing more of skill acquisition. All those things comes up, and they do their best to train them, and that is why we bring it everyone back to the issue of entrepreneurship. Like, for example, the federal government established the Federal Technical Education. States, we have in a state technical education, ensuring that a lot of our children have to go back to use their hands, knowing fully well that those are the things that actually pay off this time. All these are some of the things that are important in our education system. Before I go, we should not talk and without trying to look at what are some of the solutions that we need to put into we need in our education system, so that we can have a better education system that flows without any hindrance and that is stable, which is very important at a time like this. What are some of the things that we really need to put in place for us to have a balanced and a good education system? Number one thing that I like to talk about is we should increase and prioritize education funding. This is one of the major issues that every government in Nigeria has actually been facing over the years, the issue of funding. And according to UNESCO, the UNESCO expects that a country should allocate at least 15 to 20% of the national budget to education. That was a recommendation of UNESCO. So that is one of the ways we can prioritize it. And they ensure timely release and transparent use of funds. The timely release and transparent use of funds, very important. Then improves the salary, benefit, and training for teachers to attract and retain talent, so that there won't be anything called japa again. All these things are very important that we really need to do. And how do we strengthen our basic education? Another thing is that we should strengthen our basic education, that is the primary and junior secondary school. Very, very important, because that's the base, that's the beginning. And how do we do that? Then we should fully implement the universal basic education, UBE, with accountability. Then we should build and maintain infrastructure, classrooms, toilets, libraries, water, and electricity. Making the environment conducive for all the students, very important for them to have a better environment. And provide free compulsory education with school feeding programs to improve attendance, especially in poor and rural areas. If somebody is hungry, you can't expect the same child to have the capacity, the ability to learn. So we must do what is called a free, and the free education goes beyond just giving 2-3 notebooks and biro to students and ask them to go to school. Make the environment convenient. Let them go with ease. Let them go without thinking that somebody is going to send them back from school. And that, to me, I felt it's not also it's important to also let the parents know that the government is giving a free education does not mean that you should not contribute at all to the life of your ward. It's very important. Number 3, invest in teacher training and recruitment. Require a proper certification for all teachers, that is the NCE or B education. Offer incentive to teach in underdeserved areas, that is the rural and conflict zones. If you are sending them to the rural areas, let them enjoy something that makes them feel encouraged to go to those areas. Then regularly organize teacher training programs on new methods and technologies. All these things will make our education system better. Then reform curriculum to match modern needs. I think this is another area that we really need to work on in Nigeria. Letting our curriculum is not just the same way of you're giving a 2-year-old child and giving him a kind of assignment that you all know that it's only the parents that will do at home, and just give a parent and the parent will just answer it and give it back to the student. You'll be able to understand the intellectual ability of every child and be able to have a curriculum that suits the age and class. Include entrepreneurship, digital literacy, environmental education, and civic responsibility. Adapt to local languages as early levels with gradual transition to English. I remember in those days, when you were in school, they would tell you no vernacular. When you speak Yoruba, they write your name down. And we give so much prominence, so much priority to a foreign language, instead of us to have more time for our own. Hello, good morning. And where are you calling from, please? Who is on the line?
Yeah, this is Femi Kotila.
Oh, thanks to have you on the program.
It's a program, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Well done.
Thank you so much.
I just want to appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your word of encouragement. Thank you so much. And okay, like I said, another thing we need to do is to adapt to local languages. Imagine when you are teaching a child to speak English, and by the time your child gets home, and the kind of construction, and you're wondering that it's better for this child to speak Yoruba rather than to speak the kind of language, the kind of English that you don't even know the present from the past, you don't know the pronunciation, and everything goes terrible. But it's advisable that, if possible, that we should know how to even allow our children to, first of all, start with what we call their mother tongue, having their mother tongue first, and moving from their mother tongue and gradually moving to transit to English. This is so important. Definitely, you will know, because sometimes when you talk to your child and you need to start telling them it is called this is this, don't do this, you don't pronounce like this, or you tell them using past tense for present tense, singular, plural, singular when you're supposed to use plural. All these things are things that, if you are actually using the mother tongue, you'll be surprised that they're going to catch better, they're going to understand better, and before you know it, they will transit to English. Another thing is curb examination malpractices and improve standard. We need to curb examination malpractices and improve our standard. Examination malpractices is terrible. That is why a child actually been engaging in examination malpractice at secondary school will definitely see no reasons to go and start reading even at the university level, because he believes either you read or you don't read and you pass. And those days, I remember they used to say omo to pass lo mowe, and it's not the one. It does not matter if you read, as long as you pass, you already have it good, and which we need to curb. And that is why we need to stop all this what we call special centers, going to pay for special centers just because you just want your child to move from one class to the other without you understanding his ability. Please, it's important that we all should understand this. And lastly, we should leverage on technology. Technology is the in thing. AI is in thing, and if you are still doing it in the normal manual way, I doubt how far we can go. Thank you so much. Definitely, this is how we're going to be doing the course this morning on the program Spotlight, and we apologize. My guests unfortunately could not meet up this morning. I would promise you that next week is going to be another exciting time where we're going to be picking up a very important issue of discourse, and I assure you that you're going to enjoy every part of the program. Thank you so much, and Tosin Lowo. Do have a wonderful morning.